Heyo everybody, Haku here with my next read through for Mahou Shoujo Ikusei Keikaku, or Magical Girl Raising Project JOKERS. We're starting chapter 3. I was really busy and really burnt out on things in general last week. And I really did want to read Beastars. I wanted to read this too, but I was just already so behind on things that I felt like recording 2 read-through videos would really kill me. So, I decided to take a week off between chapters and just take a break from Magical Girl Raising Project before we move on to Chapter 3. And then I go to Chapter 3. Chapter 3 is 80 pages long. It is really daunting. So we're going to have to split this into 4 parts probably, because 20 pages is like... It can be anywhere from 40 minutes if there's like not many words on the page, I guess, or it could be over an hour to read 20 minutes. So, or 20 pages. So, yeah, I'm going to split this into 4 parts instead of the usual 3 and read 20 pages per read through. That way I'm just sure that I have enough time to take my time and enjoy it and discuss it. Because, yeah, 80 some pages is a whole hell of a lot. So we're going to have to split this one into 4 parts. So, yeah, last time we left off, we kind of got more of an introduction, I guess, to the freelancers who I really like. And this is an arc where I already don't really want characters to die. Umbrain and Lady Proud or whatever right now, but I really like the freelancers, and I really like the pure elements, including Prism Cherry. The pure elements are so good. So I'm a bit worried about all their safety, but we still haven't really been introduced to all of the characters yet. We haven't seen the Queen, at least we haven't confirmed seen the Queen. We haven't seen Shufflin, and we haven't seen the one that looks like a circus performer. We haven't seen her yet either. So yeah, there's still some we haven't even met. So chapter 3, A Miraculous Meeting. Let's start reading, starting with Prism Cherry. So yeah, this entire chapter read through, like combining all 4 parts, is probably going to take me over 4 hours, so there is no way I could have read that all at once. Even if my battery would last that long recording, my voice certainly wouldn't. So let's start off with Prism Cherry at Chapter 3. After training time, the pure elements returned to the briefing room. Everyone sat on chairs surrounding a table. Tempest sat shallowly, Inferno squatted on the chair, Quake braided her knees. Okay. Break time is free time. Break time is free time. Each person did their own thing. Of course, there's also the rule that you couldn't annoy other magical girls that they haven't broken. Quake was immersed in her handheld video games. Inferno was reading a shonen manga. Deluge was watching Inferno's manga beside her. Tempest was opening her notes and math textbooks, and with Prism Cherry advising her. Tempest folded her arms while looking down at her notes. She frowned her mouth and furrowed her eyebrows. Prism Cherry pointed out the calculation formulas from the side. Don't forget to carry this over. Oh, so carry the 10. Close, not that one. The other one. Oh, I get it, this one. Yep, that's right. Princess Tempest used an eraser to erase her mistakes, then blew away the eraser crumbs left over. She then wrote over them. Confidently, she pointed at the new formula with her pencil. So we use this one, right? Yep, that's right. Yeah, next one. Prism Cherry, who was watching Tempest head on to the next question like it was a challenge, began to smile. Cherry didn't have any brothers or sisters, but would having a sister feel like this? She didn't really have a lot of skills in studying, but she could help with lower grade elementary school homework. Quake placed her handheld on the table and chuckled. Didn't you forget to do your homework before this one? You should remember the next time. He. It's undignified for a magical girl to be too something for homework. They forgot and left out a word. But either way, I get what they're saying. It's undignified to forget their homework or whatever. Inferno was able to joke around without even keeping her eyes off her manga. Wait a minute, why are you looking at me when you say that, Tempest? Inferno, what were your grades on your exams again? Hey now, middle school exams are way worse than elementary school ones. Inferno nodded when Deluge backed her up with those words. Way more difficult than the ones kids have to take. You're acting like you're an adult, Inferno. Inferno is an adult. What Quake said, I'm an adult. Being able to have more exams than anyone else is pretty awesome. Kids can't possibly do it. Normally there's no replacement test. Hey, wait a minute. Surrounded by walls of white, the girls in the neurosis-inducing room began to sound their laughter. Tempest laughed too. She clicked on her mechanical pencil as she laughed, but no lead came out. She shook vertically, but she didn't even hear the lead inside. Okay. Huh? What's up, Tempest? I think the lead's out. She opened her pencil case and tilted her neck. Afterwards, she started looking for it in her backpack. But she only found textbooks and notebooks. No erasers or highlighters at all. Tempest grumbled. Looks like she'd have no pencil. How'd she lose something so small anyway? Can I borrow a pencil? Quake's pencil's too dark. It'll stain your notebook. Huh. Luxurious. Okay. I guess I'll find one back home. Cherry, mind waiting for me here? Wait. You're heading off early. Get back soon, okay? You won't finish before break time's over otherwise. I know. See you later. And now we're going to Lady Proud. Let me get a sip of water, of course, before we continue. Going on to Lady Proud. She followed the smell of blood gradually in a snail's pace, one by one, careful not to miss the smell while keeping pace. Soon she began objecting to Umbrain's tiredness. They'd spent the last 2 days following a trail to a factory. It didn't feel like a lab, but this wouldn't be a bad place to disguise and hide a facility underneath. The scent ends here. Are we finally there yet? We wasted enough time. She didn't mind taking the blame from Umbrain, since she knows she'll never stop if she started to mind. A magical girl's strength could forcefully destroy this, but people who would use the lab would probably use a separate entrance and exit. Umbrain turned right, Lady Proud turned left, circling the factory halfway, finding a back door installed on it. The lock had already been broken. The door wasn't even fully closed. So this is where you come out. I don't sense anything but... Creak. The door made a horrible noise. It was opening. There was no one inside, though. There was also no dust on the floor. Even if you stroke it, it's cleaned on a regular basis. If the owner of this factory treated it importantly, then they'd prioritize locking the door before cleaning the floor. Alright. This is unnatural. It's worth some investigating. The wall suggested that this factory had history. Thanks to the paper stamped on it, it seemed to have originally been a frozen food producer. They probably sold all their machines in case they ever went broke. There was nothing in this place, even though it's not that wide. Since it was so small, the traces of the factory, the toilet, the restrooms, the hot water supply, simply investigating them means there's nothing more to investigate. Not even magical girls who had their expectations high could find anything but loose ends. There's nothing of interest. Umbrain stared at the spider's web in the corner of the room. What are you looking at? The spider's web has raindrops rolling on it. It's beautiful. Are you even seriously looking? Honestly, not really. She didn't really bring her along to help her search, but the least Umbrain could do was work. Though if she forced her to, she'd probably just go home, which would be troubling for Proud. Whenever there was an emergency, she depended on Umbrain. They searched the factory time and time again. Then they searched again. When she thought there was nothing more to search, she looked for Umbrain and found her, as always, staring at a spider's web. The scent of blood ended here. What was being done here? There has to be something. If this wasn't some kind of magical girl, she wouldn't even take interest in this blood scent, let alone if it were humans. If she clicked her tongue, sitting down in the tatami at the restroom, her cloak touching the ground. Lady Proud wasn't a magical girl who specialized in searching. Only the examination division's team had that kind of skills, or maybe freelancer magical girls who were specialized in finding people. But she couldn't exactly ask those magical girls for help. Her text told her that she had to keep this a secret. More importantly, the Foreign Affairs Division tend to want to monopolize their prey. Umbrain was more than just non-cooperative. It felt like she was messing with Lady Proud, barely investigating at all. With a tragic resolve in mind, Lady Proud once again stood up to investigate. Then she heard the sound of something being dragged and stopped moving. Looking out into the factory from the restroom, she saw Umbrain hold her umbrella open. The direction Umbrain was was looking at was a crane whose operating device had been moving and sliding. What the? Quiet. The operating device stopped moving. A large four-sided hole opened up from there. Someone's head popped out. A magical girl. Her hair was tied in two golden hair ornaments scattering her. Large laurels on her back. With a look of surprise, the magical girl pointed her finger at Lady Proud. Ah! Then she pointed at Umbrain. You guys again. There's more of you. Then she pointed at the ceiling. There's even one way up there. Lady Proud looked up where she had pointed. There was someone sitting on the beams near the ceiling. A clown. A magical girl with a clown motif. This was probably a masked girl with a clown motif. This was probably a magical girl looking down at them. You guys can't just do whatever you want. The girl popped out halfway from the hole. There was a large blade-shaped weapon on her hand. Lady Proud hurriedly hid behind Umbrain's back. Hold on, we're not trying to fight you. You can't trick me. The girl threw her weapon, that large range weapon, and unintentionally grazed everything in the direction that it was thrown. From walls, unsold goods, factory equipment, all of them were cut as it spun through them until it passed near the ceiling. The clown magical girl hurriedly escaped through the window, the trajectory of the weapon turning again until it headed in this direction. Umbrain turned her open umbrella toward the weapon. Umbrain's umbrella was a magical umbrella. No matter what attack hits it, it'll bounce off lightly. The furiously spinning blade twirling in the factory was lightly stopped and fell down to the floor. The weapon fell down with a clank before disappearing with a whoosh. Umbrain turned around as if to say ha, but the magical girl from the hole had also disappeared. She got away. She got away. They were interested in the clown magical girl too, but the hole was more important than her. Where did it lead? Okay, so now they found them. Luckily it doesn't seem like they want to fight. Honestly, I don't know. I guess the Queen Shufflin and the clown girl are supposed to be the bad guys, because I thought that Umbrain and Lady Proud were going to be the bad guys, but I guess not. Or at least I kind of thought it was a possibility. We'll see what happens. Now we have Fall on page 7 for everybody following along. Fall. The search in S City had entered its third day. Snow White jumped from the billboard of the prep school to the top of the telephone pole. From there she moved to the roof of the post office to a traffic light. Then she jumped 3 times in succession off building walls. Jump, 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 in a good tempo. In the middle of the night, the number of cars that came downhill were declining considerably. However, that doesn't mean there's no people. The entertainment district was still full of rowdy lights, and similarly rowdy men and women were similarly rowdily getting drunk. With salarymen leaning on lighting signs and younger men glaring at people all around. Snow White continued moving along while occasionally intervening. Helping people is a magical girl's job, but if the local magical girl saw her, she might accuse Snow White of ignoring territory. Snow White would shrug off any complaints made, but if they report to the higher-ups, it'll be annoying. But she's never met the local magical girl. She moved quite flashily, running around as Fall's radar detected no magical girls. Who's the person in charge? Her name and magical skill. Hang on, Pone. Her name is Prism Cherry. Her powers are to change any image reflected in mirrors, Pone. Her area of responsibility is the whole of S-City, Tanai Town, Abi Town, Ainari Town, and Tonoe Town. Thanks. She jumped from building to building, running along the rooftops. Fall wondered if Snow White was interested in the local magical girl, but now's not the time to ask her. Despite moving around, Snow White was not interested in the local magical girl. Fall talked to Snow White while watching his radar. You're moving sloppily on purpose, aren't you, Pone? I don't intend to move sloppily. Then I should say you're moving boldly, Pone. She wasn't keen on meeting the local magical girl, which was fine, but it's almost equal to wanting to cause a dispute. Even if Snow White kept quiet about the whole thing, you're getting quite bold on your opinions yourself, Fall, Snow White muttered. Well, the princess who refrains from speaking gains nothing, Pone. He was joking, but Snow White didn't register any reaction, meaning she really was using herself as bait. This would be fine if the prey was someone Snow White and Fall could handle, but he didn't know how long she'd be able to keep this up. Fishing up small fishes are fine, but if they keep going and catch a whale, the fisherman's life would be in danger. Snow White was, unsurprisingly, indifferent about her own personal safety. She'd never listened to Fall. Was she desperate because Ripple wasn't here anymore? He wanted to ask her that, but he feared what her response would be. How much pain did Snow White endure? Thinking about this, Fall decided not to ask. She received a text from Ripple's magical phone. She believed in Ripple's survival and acted. Since she was acting to reunite with Ripple, naturally she'd have to consider her own safety. At least Fall hoped so. "Can you slow it down, Pone?" When Fall voiced that, there was a simple, large electronic sound that rang. It was probably not a nice sound to hear. If they didn't pay attention, they wouldn't have even had time to register the danger. A magical girl had appeared within 200 meters. When Fall wanted to accurately check her position, he heard a crashing sound, but Snow White had already made one backflip and landed on the iron fence. Okay. There was a magical girl there. Her face was smiling as if something was funny. Her overall color scheme was poisonous. There's a large flower on her head. Her hair was the color of autumn cherry trees. Oh, it's been a while since we saw Mimi and Marika. So Mimi and Marika running into Snow White then. Fall's original master, Keek, loved magical girls. She explored many magical girls to fulfill her image of the ideal magical girl. She documented many magical girls in the process, all packed within Fall. A simple directory, not just a directory, but personality, current job. It was a large amount of data. Marika Fukuroi, ex-Mahou school student, a magical girl who was classmates with Clamberry and Flamey Pone. Okay. Oh, a mascot character. You're probably a magical girl with a backbone. She has a flower blooming on her head, Pone. It may look ridiculous, but it possesses mysterious magical powers, so don't underestimate it, Pone. Fall ignored Marika's reaction and continued his comments. This magical girl, Marika Fukuroi, already attacked the instant she came within range of his radar. She moved with such full-powered speed in a straight beeline to land a kick to Snow White it was almost admirable, meaning she's an enemy. Fall was of course talking about himself to the enemy. He's trying to say everything out loud in order to say, "I know everything about you." Yet the enemy seemed to laugh with joy at Fall knowing all of her confidential secrets. Despite suppressing his feelings of irritation, Fall continued on. Even among the Mahou school, she was expelled due to her ferocity. She wanted to fight tanks, so she went to South America to fight with all the drug traffickers. She's nothing but a battle-crazy person, Pone. Of course, Fall himself belonged to a magical girl who stopped many wars in the Middle East, but let's leave that aside for now. I don't see any of them on my radar, but she might have allies, Pone. They have the philosophy, which really isn't a philosophy, of seeking out battle, acting as magical girls to do so, Pone. Mahou school students, Amy and Monaco, they won battle after battle and graduated the Mahou school, Pone. Stellar Mimi's not from the Mahou school, but she is a good friend of Marika, Pone. It's said that Mimi even manipulates Marika from behind as a handler, Pone. Of course her fighting ability is something we have to determine, Pone. Okay, so that doesn't sound quite like what we know about Marika and Mimi's relationship, so it's interesting to see what Mimi thinks of their relationship compared to what is in the databanks that Fall has. Marika casually tapped her foot. Snow White's back was blocked by an iron fence. Fall had dared to explain at length in a battle between magical girls. Even if you know their powers, there are times when you have to make immediate decisions if you believe your enemy exceeds you in power, personality, and compatibility. The importance of information is high. Saying, "I know this much about you," can make them wary and should cause them to run. Be careful, Pone. Snow White. She's... Snow White. Oh, I get it. The magical girl hunter. Marika's smile turned even wider, as if she was drunk with happiness. So, this is what destiny feels like. How's Flamey, huh? Satisfied? Bet you aren't. I'm much more meatier for you. Careful, though. I'm poisonous, too. While slightly tilting forward, Snow White tried not to move. Marika took one step forward. The alarm sound that resonated once further rang again. Fall saw a shadow flying from behind Marika. Okay, so that's probably Mimi finally showing up. Let me get some water, of course. And we are now at page 11. Let me check the recording and all. Okay. Stellar Mimi. What are you doing? Marika was speaking so loud it wasn't actually hard to guess what she's doing. She was trying to start a fight. What she's trying to do is tell her not to shout so loudly and restrain her. Not to mention, she rushed over her as fast as she could. She wanted to make her opponent see that Mimi was trying her best to stop Marika. On top of that, Marika Fukuroi also made a mess. On top of that, Mimi was unable to stop her despite her utmost efforts. That'd be troubling if that happened. Please just stop making a ruckus. Or such a ruckus. I haven't even started yet. Marika Fukuroi didn't even hesitate. Mimi resisted the urge to knock her on the head to give her a hint. Only magical girls who were able to dodge Marika Fukuroi's surprise attacks had the right to fight her. Marika's excuse was trying to find someone tough enough that they're either able to dodge, endure, or counterattack against it. Naturally, only after that would she challenge them straightforwardly, fair and square. Every time Mimi tries to tell her that she's got the wrong order, she ignored her. Even now, it was like that. Marika rushed at full speed according to her theory towards the magical girl in the rooftop that she's discovered. Mimi tried to stop her only for her hand to grab onto nothing. Then she tried chasing after her, but somehow Marika's surprise attack failed. It had failed. An overall white magical girl, a school uniform being the main point, further tightened with decorations of armbands and flowers around her. Her boots had their textures pop out. The flowers on the headband had slightly opened, which could appeal to the eyes of any viewer, but it reminded her of who she is. The bag that she had wrapped on her waist that wasn't part of her original costume, that was the only thing that stood out. Perhaps it was a magical item. She stared at it but couldn't figure out its use. The girl kept her line of sight to Mimi and Marika, but she also didn't neglect her surroundings. She understood that the girl didn't fall for Marika's surprise attack, but she had extensive fighting experience and mastery over her magical skill. Even veterans that have been veterans for half their lives have been known to panic and be afraid if suddenly attacked. Meanwhile, this magical girl seemed to have sarcastically relaxed. Mimi couldn't see any openings in her attitude. Stellar Mimi Pon. A strange way to end words and a childlike synthetic voice. She heard something talking out of the white magical girl's breast pocket. It was then that she realized this magical girl had a cyber fairy mascot character. A magical girl with a mascot character. Does that mean she has high authority? Does that mean she has someone watching her back? There were plenty of cases to be made for why it would be bad for Marika to have her as her opponent, or have her as an opponent. She opened her palms, then raised them high to show her opponent. Listen, I'm sorry for how rude that idiot's acting. Hey, who are you calling an idiot? Mimi didn't react to the idiot's voice and continued on. Sorry about that abrupt cut. I had to step away for a minute, but back, and we are at literally the first line of page 13 after page 12 with Mimi didn't react to the idiot's voice and continued moving on. So great. This is all just a big misunderstanding, and she may have accidentally smashed herself, but we really don't want to fight you. We humbly apologize. Are you kidding? Of course I want to fight her. She's the magical girl hunter, for crying out loud. Magical girl hunter. The white school uniform costume, the cyber fairy mascot character, the bag on her waist, and the uninnocent attitude. Oh, I see. She thought as she finally understood. It seems she looks just like the rumor said. Of course, someone with the name Magical Girl Hunter could endure Marika's surprise attack. She arrests famous rogue magical girls, some of whom could make criminals tremble when their names are spoken. While Mimi kept her hands up, she retreated 3 steps. How long is this going to keep happening, she wondered. How long will this magical girl who has a tendency for violence to even her colleagues be forgiven? Alright, and now we have a really cool illustration. We have 3-point stance Marika, okay. Like the angle makes it look really weird. We have Marika and then Stellar Mimi a little in the back, and foreground Snow White and Fall. She remembered the phrase, "It's time to pay your dues." It was just a saying, but looking at the situation now, it seemed fitting. Marika was being hunted. She was only a rude, unlikable person who'd bother others, the incarnation of violence. When others approached her, she'd bite them like a mad rabbit. She was shunned by Mao's school, but this was just pathetic. Goodbye, Marika Fukuroi, thought Mimi, saying her farewells. Marika probably didn't know what Mimi was thinking without keeping her eyes off Snow White. She raised a question of doubt. What, you're not going to stop me? No, I won't stop what I can't stop. Whoa, what's with the sudden change of heart, man? I wish you were always like that. Marika advanced a step further while sliding her feet. Her distance to Snow White is approximately 5 meters. Just standing behind them would be dangerous. Mimi stepped 2 steps to the right. This time Snow White moved. It was the magical girl hunter finally about to hunt. Snow White's posture changed. She went from forward-leaning to standing upright, also raising a palm. I'm not going to fight you. What? Why? The one who said what was Marika, who replied seriously confused. The one who said why was Mimi, who was hiding her disappointment. Before Snow White could answer, they were interrupted by an electronic beep. Mimi looked at the building to her right. She felt something moving abruptly. She wasn't fast, it's just that by the time she noticed, she was already there. On the other side of the wire fence was a clown shrugging her shoulders. Okay. Again, seems like the clown may be the bad guy here. Fall trembled for 3 reasons. The first is that a magical girl showed up just when his radar reacted. Marika and Styler Mimi's speed were frightening, but they still had a delay of half an eye blink. They were jumping vigorously here, so they had to generate energy for it. The magical girl, the one who had the mask with a caricature face, right eye closed and left eye open with a tear mark rolling down her face, obscuring most of her face. The one that looked like a clown had no sign of movement. She was just there. The second reason he was nervous was the fact that the clown was standing where there were no footholds. The building rooftop was surrounded by wire meshes on all 4 sides. There was nothing beyond it. The clown was standing on nothing. There were some magical girls who were able to fly in the air, sure, but clowns had no general means to do so. She was standing on stilts. It was like a bad joke. The third reason was because Snow White seemed upset looking at the clown. Snow White can get angry sometimes. She can even be happy sometimes. Though she'd never show it to people. She kept herself closed off. Fall can tell Snow White's inner emotions with the slightest change of her expression. Ripple had once told him where to look specifically. This time Snow White tried to step back, but her heels were already touching the wire mesh, so she couldn't go back any further. She quickly checked behind her, then once again looked in front. She was upset, flinching, yet she was unable to hide it. She hasn't done something like this before. Marika Fukuroi faced the intruder. Styler Mimi hung her mouth open in disbelief. The 2 of them weren't expecting her either. It didn't look like they knew her. The clown jumped from the stilts and landed on the wire mesh. She grabbed the 2 stilts with her left hand. It was quite long, so the weight would be substantial. The edge of the wire mesh bent, distorted, but she still had her balance without collapsing. The clown placed the stilts she had with her left hand onto her sleeves. It was about at least 20 meters or more, yet it disappeared as soon as it entered her sleeves. Marika Fukuroi whistled out. Was this the clown's magical skill? This was a magical girl that he's never seen or heard of before. A magical girl that wasn't in Keek's database could only mean that she's a considerably recent magical girl, right? But for a newbie, her movements were above them. Not someone that the 3 of them would easily be able to outdo. The clown opened both her hands, then suddenly closed them. Clap. It sounded as she clapped and shook it in the air. When she opened her hands again, there were tiny flags in a row all together. So, who are you? The only one of them that voiced her confusion of the clown was Marika Fukuroi. The clown magical girl tilted her head. Boing. She kicked off from the wire mesh and jumped to the air. She kicked off the wall of the next building, then using that momentum, she did a half flip and kicked on the electronic sign of a sex shop. The neons went dark for a moment as she placed her hands on an iron fence. Not only her outfit, but her movements were also clown-like. While she was jumping, her hands were spread wide and her shoulders shrugged, as if she was moving quite humorously. It looked like she was dancing with pom-poms with the night sky as her background. The clown turned around this way, raising her right index finger, pointing behind her. Boing, and she hopped and ran away. Behind her, becoming ever so smaller as she kept running, Mariko Fukuroi shouted, "Hold up!" but the clown didn't stop. Mariko ran as well. "Oh, please don't start causing more trouble," said Mimi, chasing after her. Snow White soon followed. The 4 magical girls were running above the red light district. Snow White returned to her usual self, bold, uninnocent, unmoving no matter what happened. Even when thrown into the frying pan, she'll find a way out. Why was Snow White upset? Hey, what did you see in her, Pone? What do you mean? I can't find any data on her, Pone. It might be that she's just very recent, but if not... One possibility went towards them. A magical girl who's not in her database, who's not in the database. Her behavior was that of a veteran. Which magical girl would it be? What if it's one of those underground magical girls, Pone? What if it's one of those dirty working magical girls like Rainbow and Bee City? As they weren't officially registered, these magical girls could easily fade into the shadows. He wondered if the clown was one such magical girl, but I don't think so. Snow White instantly denied it. No? I thought I'd be dead on, Pone. That girl doesn't have a guilty conscience. Ah. Snow White used her magical skill of hearing the voices of people in distress. Okay. Normally, she didn't just use it to find people in distress, but it would also work when people were thinking, I want to do this, but if things go wrong, it'd be bad. She'd be able to hear even to the depths of their subconsciousness. When she also raised her hand when Mariko Fukuroi faced her, she probably used her power too. Mariko Fukuroi thought that people who'd rather not fight than fight would be bad for her. Even Fall understood that, and he couldn't even read minds. Okay, makes sense. You hurt her heart, Pone. She's not a bad girl, but something's off. She's too pure. What do you mean by that, Pone? I don't know. This is the first time I've heard something like this. She has an objective, but I can't hear any enthusiasm on carrying it out. Or maybe there's possibly the chance that she has done a bunch of evil stuff, but she's just so sociopathic that she doesn't feel any guilt over it. That could also be a way to screw with Snow White's power. But either way, we are on page 19 now, almost through with this first part of the read-through. And my voice is holding up okay. My throat hurts a little bit though, but I just haven't been feeling well lately anyway. Okay, so now we have Prism Cherry again. Oh yeah, I wonder if they're going to find out that there were magical girls at their entrance. Quake's pencils are for drawing. Alright, you said I can see some of your sketches, right? How's that going? It's not going anywhere. I told you from the start. Huh? What sketch? Please don't eat over there. The bulkhead doors began to open, and everyone looked towards it. Only Tempest would be coming back now, but she was far too early. So where'd Tempest even go? This is bad, this is really, really bad. Okay, it is Tempest. Tempest kept on panicking. She flew off. Oh no, she did leave. She flew off to her house to get a pencil because the lead was missing, so why was she in a hurry to get back? Not to mention she was abnormally fast. Even for the fastest pure element, Princess Tempest, this was far too fast. Not to mention she still hasn't gotten a spare pencil lead. Guys, something huge just happened. Okay, she is back. And that was just them explaining why it was weird that she'd be back. Something huge just happened. She was still in a hurried panic, seemingly unable to wait to open the briefing room's bulkhead, even hitting the bulkhead with her shoulder since she was moving so fast. Why are you freaking out so much? Inferno asked her while still reading her manga. Tempest tilted her head. Inferno looked up from her manga at Tempest. What? I said we have trouble. Big trouble. At that exact moment, a large beeping sound echoed in the room. Prism Cherry's heartbeat jumped. She looked around her. The princesses kicked their chairs off like bullets and looked at the monitor. Prism Cherry, who lagged behind, followed shortly. She looked at the monitor over Quake's shoulder to see the entrance of the laboratory. Several people were shown. 2 people, one with a fantastical-looking cape and another with a large umbrella. Her heartbeat jumped up once again. These were magical girls. See, we have enemies. There's a clown, a cape person, and someone with an umbrella, all raiding us at once. I'm serious. I'm not lying, see? Calm down, Tempest. We never said you were lying. Enemies again. They're persistent, aren't they? Aren't they different than the ones we saw before. I'm fighting them this time. You want to fill yourself up that badly, don't you, Inferno? Can't let Tempest have all the fun. Ladies first now. But everyone here's a lady. While talking in a light tone, the princess's expressions tightened with no hesitation. Prism Cherry held down her chest. Thinking what'll happen next is making her chest feel painful. She knew what she should do, she's decided. Prism Cherry's a member of the Pure Elements. She had to act to protect the Pure Elements. And that is where we end for this time around. I had fun. I liked reading it. You know I love the Pure Elements. I like this clown character already, even if she's the bad guy. She's really, really interesting. I like basically all the characters we've been introduced to, which is something that's good. And I feel like we have developed the characters more than we did in Limited. So I think it's a good thing. I really like the characters. Gonna be sad to see any of them die off, because I really, really like the characters. So we'll see how things go. But either way, I hope you enjoyed the video. Not sure what else to say. So like if you did like the video, comment down there to tell me what you thought of this first part of this chapter, what you thought of my thoughts and reaction. Subscribe for more. Magical Girl Raising Project. Much more on the channel. Follow on Twitter if you want. I can try to give you an update there on stuff for the channel, and I can talk to you there. And if you want a link to our Discord server to talk to me or more of us about the series there, then just ask and I can give you a link. That's it. Thank you once again for watching, and I'll see you all next time.